I think the go-to-market team is one team, but in a lot of places it's structured very differently, and it's structured to be somewhat combative. Healthy combat's great. I never want to shy away from that, but we've built in some roadblocks that I don't think needed to be in there.
Right now, we see a lot of people that are scared that they are training AI to take their jobs, or that AI is just going to take their jobs. And as organizational leaders, we need to be conscientious of how our people are feeling. We need to help bring them along with us. I hope that most organizations have a people first, AI forward kind of mentality. I talk a lot about trust, and who do we trust? Do you trust OpenCloud? Do you trust Grok? Do you trust OpenAI? Odd, right? Gemini, Google. Who do you trust on the teams?
And authenticity is going to win out in the end. The more people use these services to write content or rewrite content or come up with ideas, which humans are still better at, authentic voice is really going to reach more people. Welcome to What Keeps Marketers Up at Night, the show where we unpack what's keeping modern CMOs, growth leads, and marketing ops folks awake. I'm Jeff Spinella from Darwin, where we help teams turn marketing chaos into reliable systems that actually work. Today, I'm joined by Chris Black. Chris is an operations and marketing leader and an AI advisor for SaaS B2B startups from Series A to Series C. More specifically, Chris is a CMO and COO at the eponymous Chris Black Consulting. Chris also serves in many other roles, including as a fractional marketing leader at Sonnet.io, a business mentor at Sage Innosphere Ventures, strategic advisor at Culture Prism, marketing advisor at Adaptic Health, and a force to be reckoned with within the Boulder, Colorado AI community. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jeff. Very kind.
No, of course, yeah. And you have a ton of different things on your plate here, so I'm excited to hear about hopefully some more of those and your perspective on many different things. But why don't we start with any gaps, anything I missed, any little bit more information here about yourself?
The main thing is that I'm helping early stage tech startups. Many of them are having a hard time getting funding. So while normally they have to have a lean book of business and lean finances, that's even more important now. So I'm bringing AI into a lot of those early stage tech startups so that we can accomplish more really with less and better than probably I've ever been able to do before since generative AI came into our lives.
Fantastic. Do more with less, common theme we've certainly been hearing nowadays, and frankly for many years now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's move then to our classic opener question here, and thank you for sharing a little bit more about yourself there first as well. What is keeping you up at night nowadays?
So it's probably jobs, right? It's the talk of the town. Everyone thinks they're losing jobs. I'm actually more worried about how are we going to train the next folks that are coming into the market. So we've got a lot of college students graduating. They have the more traditional skills. Um, yes, jobs are going to be impacted short term, but longer term, what's going to happen in 5, 10 years? What's going to happen when I retire? Who's going to step into that role? Who's going to step into that person's role that steps up into mine? So I think a lot about training, upskilling for current, but also skilling correctly. And none of us really know what's going to happen here in these next few years or 10 years. The world's going to look so different. So how do we prep our junior employees so that they have the skills they need, not just for the jobs today, but the jobs as they scale up and into their careers?
Yeah. Yep. A lot of people worried about that. You're not going to make anyone feel any better by saying that, I'm sure, but better to be honest than not, right?
Well, and the conversation's usually about jobs going away, and I think the jobs are going to shift, right? I think we can look to the dot-com boom, right? We had a very tumultuous couple of years with the dot-com bust, uh, but new jobs came, new companies rose out of those ashes. I think we'll see that today. Now, are there going to be fewer jobs, more jobs? We can't predict that. But what I can predict is that the skills that it took for me to get here are not going to be the skills for the next person graduating college to get here in 20 years.
No question. How about anything concern you as it relates to AI and society in general? Talking about maybe government policy or um, trust or veracity of real people or not. Any thoughts on that piece?
So in general, it's always about trust. Who do you trust? I don't know that that's changed a whole lot. What's changed is the speed. And I follow local politics quite a bit, national politics and policies. I believe that policy is how we talk back to those companies. So I want us to be really active in our conversations with local, state, and federal folks that represent us. And what I'm seeing of the policies now are challenging. I'm seeing things that look great. Like, we all want transparency. Well, most of us want transparency in how these are run, uh, protections for employees, protections for users. But a lot of how the policies are written today are not written by technologists. They're written by people who remember GDPR and the protections there. But a lot of that doesn't translate into what AI is capable of today. And things like opt-out policies that some are trying to write into law. You can opt out when you submit your resume, perhaps, of just saying that a person has to look at it and AI can't evaluate. That's just going to keep people out of the job market. So I worry a lot from that perspective. And I worry that I don't see a lot of people engaged in the conversation or educating themselves about what the different policies are that are on the market today. But I think we should learn from the social media era that we should all be really active in how these policies are created, because that's our way to have a conversation about how society should be run, how we want that to look in the future.
Agreed. Yeah, we've seen a lot of negative consequences from social media in many different ways. We don't tend to see the tip of the technological sphere, the impact it's doing until we're way past us, I should say, which is hopefully not what's going to happen. But it seems like we are on that path right now, with a lot of folks just not really understanding how it works and the true impact it can have, in our state, local, and federal governments. We're going to come back to AI a lot, but I want to shift gears a little bit here to someone like you, you yourself, really, obviously, who wears so many different hats and does so many different things. Uh, a typical day in the life of Chris Black. Please share what that may or may not look like, and if it's even the same thing every day.
Oh, it's never the same thing every day or every hour. I wake up every morning. I can't get away from AI. Sorry, that's just going to be part of the conversation. But I go to my task and calendar, which is AI driven, so that I know what I should work on each time. Because flexibility is the main message of my life, and adaptability. So I start out, here's what I think I should work on, and then a phone call comes in. Some bad thing has happened. Email has been hacked, board member has made a call, there's a crisis with a client. There's always things that interrupt our day. And at least at this level, we just have to stay really flexible. And I just know that my day is not going to go the way that I expect it to, just like I'm sure yours does not either. And any of us with families, we always have families, pets, and board members all conspiring against us to have the day that we expect we're going to have. I think flexibility and adaptability are what we can all expect in these next few years of how jobs are changing in general. So I just think we hang in there and know that we're all doing the best we can, and help where we can, and let things go where we can't.
Yeah, absolutely. I, I've heard many people over the years complain about having to context switch within their job. I don't want to do it. I can't do it. I really don't think it's avoidable moving forward, just with the speed at which things are moving. And if you want to get things done, you know, that they covered a lot of different categories of work, which most people do. Most people are not just staring at one task every day. You're going to have to shift a bit, especially if you're part of any team. So I
And
really
then
like that. Yeah.
new jobs are
Sorry.
going to be more like that, right? When we start
Mhm.
talking about new companies are going to be run by a single person and be worth millions, if not billions of dollars, the creativity that we have as an entrepreneur today, with the skills we have, again, AI, we can have all kinds of assistants and agents and things to run our business. Even a CEO will no longer be a CEO in the traditional sense. Marketers have always had a context shift, but all of these roles are going to get compressed. I saw a talk yesterday where someone called it a smash burger, where everything's getting squished in together and things are kind of oozing out. But one human can now run a business. One human can run a household more easily. So flexibility will be the most important skill I think we have moving forward.
No question. And that's a positive way to think about it too. There's a lot more capability that we all have, and it's just going to increase as we move forward. Shifting a little bit here to A nightmare scenario, which is one of our topics we like to talk about. We want everybody's had these challenges. Everybody's had a lot of problems. I'm sure this or that, things go bad every now and then. It helps to empathize with people like yourself who are very successful and very experienced, knowing that you maybe have had certain or anticipating certain issues here in the future. So why don't you share a little bit about a nightmare scenario you have, either now you have experienced in the past or what you're foreseeing here in the future in the world of digital marketing or AI?
I have to talk about what I see in the future because it far eclipses any of the issues that I think any of us have really had in the past, unless we've done something illegal and gone to jail. I think what the future holds and the risk that's there is far more interesting to talk about. And I think about things like Claudebot, which turned into Moltbot, which turned in, yeah, I mean, that saga this last month has been really fascinating. But the overall scenario there is where you have an agent that is autonomous, which, yeah, everyone's talking about. Everyone wants agents. None of us want to do the crap work that we hate. But these agents can operate at a speed that can do a lot of damage fast. So when I hear people talk about, well, I don't like AI, it hallucinates, and they're dismissive of it, you know what? People hallucinate all the time, right? We all want to be liked. We all want to be right. We want to be respected. And that means we have to know the answer. And I personally think that's how generative AI figured out how to do that, is because it learned from us. But when we push that forward, imagine I create an agent. Take a Wake the Dead campaign that I might work on. I might create an agent that sees something in a list, creates an email, and then sends it out. Now, push that at scale. Push that with someone that does prompt injection and takes over your instruction set and now says something completely different and changes your scale. And if you're not staying on top of it with a human in the loop, really paying attention to this, it's not that you have bad data. Everyone's going to forgive, some bad data, within certain confines. What can be very dangerous then is that kind of prompt injection where it goes out and it does bad things at a scale and under our brand or our name that we wouldn't want.
Yeah, and I think you're hitting on what we actually talked a little bit about this before. This being really the hot topic right now for a lot of folks in the AI space, right? Uh, it sounds scary, these parts of it. I'm curious if you have, the flip side of that coin in your mind. Are there positives here, OpenClaw? Um, I know we need to be concerned about the negatives, but what are the positives here potentially for people who can use it in a good way nowadays?
Well, we have to be choiceful, right? We have to be really thoughtful about things. And one of the reasons I'm with Sonnet, doing CMO work for them, is they're looking to make these kinds of things more secure. All of the security features that most of us in enterprise organizations are used to, uh, Sonnet is doing that. There's probably others as well that are finding ways to make this more secure. So when we think about our businesses, we have an IT department, and some people are like, "Oh, I don't want to talk to IT. They're just slow us down." But on the other hand, they protect us from some of these kind of nightmare scenarios. Most IT people are not trying to keep us from getting our job done. They're trying to keep us from getting sued and accidentally doing awful, evil things. Working with the larger teams and with that, we can create such cool things. I hate doing social media. The first thing I built in an assistant was something to help me with social media. Okay, it's human in the loop. I have something that I walk around my office, I have verbal diarrhea, I have it create a post for me, or maybe even a LinkedIn article. Yeah, that's pretty benevolent and it's not a lot of risk there. But when we start to scale that out, say in a marketing campaign or sales motions, that scale gets crazy, and so there's a lot of things in there that are being built to help us be able to do it at scale in a way that's really safe.
And there's a lesson there, of course, for everybody, but certainly people who are maybe younger marketing professionals that, uh, yes, it's important to stay on top of the latest, greatest technologies out there, but you need to be really careful in what you introduce into your workflow every day for yourself from a liability perspective for your company as well. So be very careful. Maybe don't give OpenClaw access to your entire device. Certainly don't probably do that, but I'm sure many people are doing that, and so there are risks that comes with these tools that make you much more efficient. Uh, so translating though over a little bit more to something maybe more positive, um, the converse here of a negative nightmare scenario, the dream scenario. I'd love to hear your dream scenario about anything you would change or how you would love to have your tech or marketing or AI stack if you were given the opportunity to have everything the way you want it.
Clean data. I know it's silly. We've been talking about clean data for decades now, but uh, as we think about this explosion of data coming out, a lot of our CRM data is still bad, or it's not as good as we might want it to be. And there's a lot of reasons for that. You'll hear me talk a lot about trust, in my articles and when I talk in general, I talk a lot about trust and who do we trust? Do you trust OpenCloud? Do you trust Grok? Do you trust OpenAI? Odd, right? Gemini, Google. Who do you trust on the teams too? Like teams don't trust the CRM. They stop using it. So the data's bad. And now your C-suite can't trust the data because it's bad. And now your board can't trust your data. So trust goes with people, with systems that we already have in place. So if we can get the data and maintain that data as we go along, now as we layer AI on top of that, it's going to amplify good data, not bad data. Now we can probably use AI to try and help us clean some of that data, but only to some extent, right? Ultimately, it's our responsibility to make sure the data that we have is good data, so that whatever motions we decide to do, AI enabled or not, that we're doing it with the best data there. Not to say we shouldn't move forward with some of the AI initiatives just because the data is bad. We've got to start somewhere, and these things can move in parallel. But data, just
Yeah,
good data. It's boring.
absolutely. Yeah. And I'm going to be a little selfish here for a second and mention that a lot of the clients that we work with here at Darwin see this challenge as well. And that's why we work with a lot of them for go-to-market engineering to make sure their processes are working and unified dashboards and things like that. But it's usually a systems problem. It's an architecture issue. It's data bleeding through the cracks because you have a million different places where you're pulling data. So this is not a problem that's unique in any way, any fashion. If you have this issue, it's certainly something that many other people have. But yeah, it's very important to get it right because as a marketer, I think your job a lot of times is tough for selling or telling, I should say, the C-suite and others that this is the value that we contribute to the bottom line. So getting that data right, getting that data precise and clean is absolutely an important thing. And just like you mentioned, Chris, it's always an ongoing task to continue to maintain it. Right?
So boring, right? It's just
It's
boring.
boring. It's boring, but it's important. It's a lot of things that are most important can be somewhat boring, but it's the fundamental thing, as you mentioned. This is not a new thing at all. Um, and continuing down that marketing path here, I'm curious. A lot of people agree on a lot of different things in the marketing world, and things change. Lately, I mentioned good GTM. That's a bigger thing nowadays. Obviously, with every new technology, we have different new perspectives, and a lot of times people coalesce around this is the right way to do X, Y, Z. Um, I'm more interested in your unpopular opinion on marketing. What do you think is not true that maybe a lot of other people think is true?
Lead to MQL to SQL to opportunity to closed won or lost. I've never been a huge fan of that structure. Uh, for a number of reasons. One is it separates. So when we talk about leads and MQLs, we're talking marketing. Then we talk to SQLs. Now we have conflict between sales and marketing and our overall go-to-market team. I think the go-to-market team is one team, but in a lot of places it's structured very differently, and it's structured to be somewhat combative. Healthy combat's great. I never want to shy away from that, but yeah, we've built in some roadblocks that I don't think needed to be in there, and we've led the witness. So when we measure MQLs, marketing wants to create MQLs, right? That's what I'm graded on. That's how I get my bonuses. That's how I get paid. I don't get fired because I produce MQLs. Well, that means the data goes back to our last part of the conversation. Our data might be a little off because now we're operating as marketers and not a go-to-market team. I do believe AI is going to shrink that as we build more assistants and agents for ourselves, that we will have to operate more as a go-to-market team. So overall, our customers don't care. If our customers don't care, why do we care? So that is the thing that I think disappears and I think gets exacerbated with the new technologies coming into the market.
Yeah, I think AI is definitely going to expose those gaps and maybe those people who are maybe fudging the numbers a little bit, right? It's something that you can't really get away from when you have this bot or someone watching you all the time and then sort of checking in on all your words. At the same time, you mentioned you're not working as a team in that regard, or at least you're leading the witness, and so it's very important to try to dive in and have the right mindsets and the right perspective, and be honest, with yourself and with your team, so you can trust those results, good, bad, or ugly, and change your path if you have to.
And I don't
Now,
want to make it sound like
mhm,
I think people are fudging numbers. I think that when you tell us to measure a particular way, we are so laser focused in that particular way. Do you ever see the video with the basketball players and it says watch the players in blue? And there's a gorilla that walks through the middle of the field, not field, basketball court.
mhm.
Those of us that are paying attention to the guys in that color completely miss the gorilla that walked across the platform there. I think it's more like that.
Understood. Okay, yeah, I guess I misunderstood you slightly there, but that's on me. I'm not a marketer at the end of the day, so I can see what you mean though as it relates to, hyper focus to a fault, right? You need to open your mind a little bit here, and maybe that's not always the right way to approach this. Just taking directions on what an MQL might be. Now,
I think
if you,
most of us are good people, right? We want to do good
yeah,
for our jobs. We want to do
yeah,
good for our families. I don't think most people are malicious or trying to get away with stuff.
no, that's a fair statement. That's a very fair statement. If you could self-project here into the future, 10 years, let's say, arbitrarily, what would you like knowledge-wise to know about that time frame, or what would you like things to look like? We can look from the AI perspective. Maybe that's the best place to start.
It would be nice to know how this shakes out. I think I mentioned earlier, I think it's going to be a chaotic few years. So what are the skills we need to know? What are the things, how are things working? How are we combating things like deep fakes? Not just within our marketing teams and our competitors, but in politics. How do we know what truth is? We've already seen different truths that cause a lot of chaos within our societies. What's that look like in 10 years? When we're used to the technology, right? And we're still, nascent within this and still afraid of it. And we are not necessarily adopting it all the time, but in 10 years, we're going to feel pretty comfortable with it. So how does that play out? And then we've got quantum computing. I think we've got likely quantum computing is going to be here in that time. Generative AI is going to help bring that to market quicker than maybe we thought. And then quantum computing is going to change even how we look at generative AI and the speed at which things are happening. So they'll feed each other. I think it's really hard to look at what 10 years looks like now so that we can be prepared for it. So if I had any indicator, it would just help me when I'm doing my trainings, teachings, mentoring for myself, because I won't be retired by then. So how will I stay pertinent myself into the future? That's what I think about.
Yeah, well, it's an impossible one to predict too, and no matter what you think about Moore's law, the exponential increase in technology is undeniable right now. So stay tuned pretty much and just stay on top of everything as best you can. And like you said, adaptive flexibility. These are the ways to make sure you're at least at a minimum employable and at a maximum really growing and being as successful as you can be given the state of things.
And we don't have to stay on top of everything. We want to stay on top of those tools that are pertinent to what we're interested in and what we're doing today.
Mhm.
So we don't necessarily have to stay on top of everything. That's the biggest concern I hear is, oh my God, how do I keep up? Right. And that is a challenge, but we pick the things that are really pertinent to our jobs today or to our interests for whatever those interests might be tomorrow. That should help a little.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Whatever you're interested in, it's always easier to pay attention to that and learn faster, right? Now, how about in the intersection of marketing and technology? And you sit on both of these at both these tables, so to speak. Uh, where at this intersection do you regularly face any sort of challenges, if at all?
It's never a technology problem. It's a people problem. It's a training problem. It's a fear and change management problem. So right now, we see a lot of people that are scared that they're training AI to take their jobs, or that AI is just going to take their jobs. And as organizational leaders, we need to be conscientious of how our people are feeling. We need to help bring them along with us. I hope that most organizations have a people first, AI forward kind of mentality. I don't want people to be worried about losing their jobs. I want them to think about what an exciting era that we're in. And as leaders, we have a lot of influence in what that looks like. So that's where I find the technology issues, the CRM issues, right? It's not the technology. HubSpot, Salesforce, all of these CRMs, the technology's there. It's fine. It's our usage of it. It's our trust and familiarity. It's training. It's incentives. How are we incented? Those are the real problems.
Hmm. Yeah, and following on that same topic here of let's not be afraid of what's going on, but let's embrace it and see how this exciting time can benefit us most. Um, Knowing how much you know about this, and I know you instruct people on how best to use AI, and then it's a broad term, obviously, and we get into the details of that. But I'm curious, and maybe we can start with someone who's a beginner. And what tools and processes would you recommend for a digital marketing person, let's say, who's just starting out, and maybe they just use ChatGPT? You know, just basic stuff at a minimum, or even not even that. What would you recommend for that beginner?
Play. And that's for all stages. It's always about play. We learned everything as children through play more than anything else. So think of a problem. Ethan Mollick says this. So I'm stealing this from him. I'm not that smart, but think of a problem and see how AI can help solve this. And that is how I got to where I was as quickly as I was. As I looked at all these problems, and I didn't want to solve it the traditional way. Like I built a TCO calculator with vibe coding. I had no business doing that. The vibe coding had been a concept for like 2 weeks, and a client said, "Here's an Excel file. Please fix this Excel file. We need to make these changes." And I would rather poke my eyes out than fix another TCO calculator in an Excel file. So I asked how AI could do it, and I vibe coded a tool that week that they were able to turn around. They got new business for it. It made it easier for them to collect data and articulate value. And that was all because I'd rather poke my eyes out than work with another ROI or TCO calculator in Excel. So pick a problem, pick something you don't like to do, and ask yourself, can AI do something about it?
Yeah, yeah, that's the easiest way. Going back to something that you might like, just give it a shot, right? It's fun to play with. I take it from everybody. It really is. It's really cool. I can't tell you how afraid I was to dive into the deep end too, thinking, "Oh, this is just another technology." Is scary, but the time saving is unbelievable. And yes, you need validation of everything you do, but just dip your toe in, see what you can do to learn from it. How about though someone maybe a little more intermediate, someone who's certainly used ChatGPT, they know what they're doing out there for a while. Any
Yeah.
recommendations for maybe what they could do?
Yeah, so the first thing we usually start with is going to ChatGPT and pretending that it's a web browser, right? And then you start to ask for more knowledge. Then we expand to say custom GPTs, and I do things like I've got a writer, I've got an editor, I've got a social media manager, and I can chain those along. So I might work with a strategist to help me think about the content I should be producing based on these metrics that I'm seeing from, say, Google Search Console. Now help me maybe write that content. Then I have an editor that makes sure it's on brand, and then my social media manager starts to come up with SEO friendly search social media friendly kinds of posts. And you can actually just chain those along. So you've got four assistants in one chat thread helping you build a tool. So that's one of the best values. Another one is like a co-strategist, a co-CEO, a co-CMO, and turn on voice mode and walk the dog, walk your kids, walk whomever you might need to, go for a drive, and actually have a chat with someone that's helping you see around corners and strategize. A lot of folks are doing this that I help that are looking for work. So I've worked with them to build their own executive coach and help with job searches, and how to think about how to talk about yourself in a way that helps you get your next job. So that's a huge one. And then some of these other tools like start to play with music, start to play with video in some way, right? Those are these multimodal, they call it, tool sets. I created a love album for my boyfriend last year because he's ridiculously romantic. Well, and I use marketing tactics to do that, but I couldn't have sung a tune, or at least you wouldn't want me to. And yet now with these tools, I can start to build something really neat. And I learned enough now that I can put music in the background of webinars and other sets, within marketing from a content perspective. So that's a good kind of middle layer very fast, hugely useful set of use cases for those that are kind of ready to move on from just a single prompt into a chat GPT.
Yeah, the custom GPTs, especially, all of them sound very exciting and interesting. But just the power of having these various different GPTs just chained together, like you mentioned. I know you work with a lot of different businesses on this. Uh, it seems like a real cheat code, and getting perspective from other people. If they learn more about this person, you can speak to them or learn more about what they need. They're going to grow and improve over time. Um, and how about people who they've done this? This is passe. This is nothing too exciting. They're looking for that next challenge. How about the advanced folks? Any recommendations for them?
Well, if they haven't already started with automations is kind of next level, right? Stringing together tasks, and soon agents will probably do this more easily. But also vibe coding more serious tools. So my little TCO calculator, that's a good like mid-level thing. But I've seen some folks out there building, I wouldn't say necessarily build a new CRM, but building dashboards, building just incredible tools that help them drive their business, help them strategize and see around corners. I'm actually not quite that cool yet, but I'm trying to be. I want to build out a search marketing tool to see what Google thinks is ranking and compare that to what's actually converting, and getting some ideas on how to rebuild that. So that is something I'm going to build out probably next weekend, because Lovable's giving free credits to everybody for a day for International Women's Day, and it's a nice big meaty project. So I figure I will use as many free tokens as I can possibly get to build something a little bit more serious.
Absolutely. Stay tuned for that one, and definitely take advantage of that, right, folks? Um, yeah, it's a crazy world out there, being able to build these things without any sort of technical knowledge, which a lot of people do, and I know you do yourself. But well, people can still build these dashboards or applications or large systems. Yes, it requires some tweaking, and if you don't know how to build the foundation from the start, or at least tell you need the right taxonomies and things like that, you might have to go back and do some rework. But um, it's truly a new frontier. And for these non-technical marketers, let's maybe get back into the marketing piece here specifically, or really any other professional who's technical or not. How do they build? I know you touched on this already. Advanced or powerful tools or workflows for their daily job that can really help them out.
Yeah, so back to the play, and if we're starting kind of at the, you're just starting, you've just put in chats into ChatGPT to get some knowledge. Uh, Custom GPTs are great and an easy way to start. There's a lot of folks on LinkedIn that talk about how to do that. I like to follow Lisa Adams. She talks a lot about synthetic teaming. If you're more on that search side or content writing, I follow Andy Crestodina. He produces so much crazy content; it's amazing. On the more technical side, I follow Christopher Penn. He and Trust Insights. They publish frameworks, and you don't have to pay for classes if you're willing to be a maker and dig into it, and you're a little brave. Christopher Penn and the folks at Trust Insights absolutely will give you enough tools for that, or you can take their trainings or hire them to stay on top of the trends themselves, kind of at a more executive level. I follow SmarterX. They have a podcast every week, and they break down to what it means as an executive. What do these trends mean when they're talking about some of these numbers and acquisitions or new models? Does it mean anything to us? And helps us project out what that might mean for our businesses. And they have a marketing conference every year that I just love, the Macon conference in Ohio. So I attend that, but I curate. I absolutely curate who I listen to. You just heard the top 3 people I follow kind of religiously, if that's okay to say. They have content every day, but curate exactly who you would want to follow based on your part of the discipline. And most people are so generous. They're talking about what they're doing, how they're doing it, and then there's lots of Slack channels. Uh, I don't even know all the different channels that are out there now, but you start to see people doing the kinds of things you want to do and start to follow them, and most of them are more than happy to help.
Absolutely. Speaking about generosity, thank you as well for coming on here and sharing so much knowledge, because uh, there is so much more that can be done, as we know, that most people are doing right now. A lot of people just scratching the surface. Uh, how about, and we touched on the chat, the custom GPTs. Um, is that the same here as what a synthetic worker would be, and how would someone leverage that synthetic worker, so to speak, create one to assist them tactically or strategically in their daily job?
Yeah, so all of the frontier models, they each have their own way of doing things like this. Uh, I kind of like ChatGPT for this because you can build custom GPTs and projects, and you can chain them together in a way that I don't think you can do in some of the others. But at the end of the day, that the main part of this is they've got instruction sets, and most of them even give you tools to help build better instruction sets, and those just get better and better. So you load instruction sets and you load what they call knowledge, so assets. It could be transcripts, files, and you throw some of that in. So for an example, my CEO CMO, I've loaded my voice. I've loaded it with some transcripts and some things that I've written. I've loaded it with my personality. I love the Myers-Briggs type indicator, so I've loaded in my Myers-Briggs type indicator. And then in my instruction set, I ask it to help me see around corners. I ask it to challenge me. Out of the box, these things are a little sycophantic and, they cheerlead you on, which can feel great from an ego perspective. But to get the real value, you really want it to challenge your thinking and help you find ways of seeing things that you might have gaps in. And so I load in where my gaps are so that it can help me fix that hole in my thinking. If you're thinking maybe a co-CRO, one of my favorites is marketing teams and sales teams often, kind of fight like cats and dogs. So if you're a marketer and you've got a sales guy that just feels impossible, make a CRO, a doppelganger, and then throw that campaign in and ask it, what are the questions that you might see? What are the gaps you might see? What are the challenges that this is solving or not solving for you? And the same with that CRO, wondering why marketing can't be bothered to give them good leads. That can necessitate, it can help a discussion. And we talk about value. Can you get value out of AI? This is hard to measure, but what would you give to be able to find ways to help teams work with less conflict? CEOs with boards is another great example of that. You always have that one board member that's hard. Well, here's my board slides. What is that guy going to ask me, or that lady going to ask me about these slides? Um, a press conference. What is a reporter going to ask me about? And you can prepare better. It's not a time savings thing, right? AI is great at helping us save time, perhaps, but some of these simple things with a thing that you throw in some instructions and some knowledge can help you think through in a way that we just never had before.
Yeah, yeah. I can't tell you, just having the GPTs really sort of pressure test yourself is so valuable. I can't tell you how many calls I've had where, oh, well, this is the call I have coming up. This is the situation. This is the information I know about the person. This is what we're going to talk about. I hope. What should I say? What happens if they say X, Y, Z? Right? Um, and just chat with the GPT, and you will at least feel more comfortable and confident. There was a technology I hadn't used in quite some time, and I had a call a couple weeks ago about this, and tell me everything I need to know here in just 10 minutes. Big scan. All right, give me the bullet points of TLDR. And it's like, oh, all right, there it is. It's all right there again. And what if they ask this other technology instead? What's the pros and cons? It never ends, and it's always super valuable.
Oh, and deep
Just pressure
research.
testing,
Right? How
deep
many people
research.
don't use deep research yet? And when we think about new prospects or new technologies, I load deep research into my custom GPTs all the time and I swap it out. So for things that are new, vibe coding tools or some of these AI multimodal tools, I will run deep research about best practices and load that in so I can ask it how to do certain things and follow the best practices to do that. And you load that then also in with best practices with social media or with email. Now you've got a really powerful combination to really help you build better programs or think about things and tools and how to use them better. It's really cool.
Yeah, no question, no question. Uh, Wrapping it all up here, AI plus marketing. We've touched on a lot of both. Curious how you see the classic digital marketing strategies. Classic, I know, is a very empty word here, but these strategies that many people have employed for, let's say, the past 10 years or so. How do you see these evolving in this ever increasing shift from search engine results pages to LLM queries, GEO, AEO, that sort of thing?
Oh, there's a lot there. Well, from a web perspective, that's a big topic this year is the SEO to GEO, or any of the other acronyms we want to talk about. I think we need to rethink our metrics. It's not about traffic to site. That's a vanity metric. I've actually been saying that for years and years, that that's a vanity metric, and nobody likes that. That's one of my unpopular phrases. Today, it is so much more true than even it was a few years ago, because no click search. So we want to appear in no click search. How do we do that? That's a little sketchy. There's a lot of people who are trying to figure that out, and we all think we have ideas, but it's changing every day. So it's hard to say what the future will hold on that. But knowing that the people that come to the site itself are probably buyers or people looking for a job. Uh, so rethinking our website so that it's really helping people get the answers they need, the competitive analysis, for example, because they're farther down the funnel than they might have been earlier. I actually love that. It means I'm not keyword stuffing my content. I can write real content that answers real questions and not worry about putting that single keyword in everywhere that makes it sound kind of stupid. So I'm excited about that part. Um, Now I've already forgotten the rest of your questions, and it's on
No,
digital
no, no.
marketing. That one's
That
kind
was
of
the
tough
gist of it, though.
for me.
Yeah, I mean, that was just how do people approach this, strategically, right? You mentioned keywords no longer, maybe not. It's more about people having intent, right?
Well,
Um,
and
yeah,
personalization, it's being more human. It's funny to
mm,
say we've got great new technology, but I think it's going to be more about being more human than we think. We think we're going to automate a bunch of stuff. You've heard, I'm sure, AI slop. Most of us probably have. Uh, I think it's about getting in there and being our own authentic selves. And AI can amplify our authentic selves. We don't want to ever replace that. And people still want to do business with people, even though that we know that bots are going to buy from bots to some extent. That in some industries that'll happen. It's no longer B2C or B2B. It's going to be B to A to B. Right, whatever combinations we can come up with. But I still think what's going to win at the end of the day is you and me being people and being our own true selves.
yeah. And authenticity is going to win out in the end. The more people use these services to write content or rewrite content or come up with ideas, which humans are still better at. Authentic voice is really going to reach more people than less authentic voice would. So yeah, there's a good lesson in that for folks who just want to rely too hard on ChatGPT, because everybody can sort of tell nowadays, anyways, if you're using ChatGPT to write your link.
It
Disagree?
depends. I mean, if you're just putting in, write me a white paper about cybersecurity, okay, yeah, that's going to be kind of crap. But if I walk around my office and I have an idea, I have a perspective, maybe even a perspective that's unpopular, I can still use ChatGPT to write content, but it's still in my voice. It's still my ideas. ChatGPT is not going to give us a lot of new ideas for our businesses. We still are the experts in our space, in our business, and we have our own thoughts. What AI is going to do for us is amplify that. So I don't know if I would say that everybody is writing content that when it's ChatGPT, they can tell. I follow Nicole Leffer. That's another person that's a good one to follow. And her engagement goes down when she writes without aid of her LLM. That is
Interesting.
has been trained in her voice. Her actual engagement goes down. And people tell her all the time, well, I can tell when you use ChatGPT, but they can't. And I find that a really cool use case.
I think the important distinction though that you made there too is in your using a GPT that has your own voice, right? Um, if you just go to you open up ChatGPT for the first time and type in "write me a LinkedIn post," maybe that'll be a little more evident that it's less authentic. But yeah, you use a tool in a little bit more of an advanced way, and you'd be very surprised. I guess is what you're saying here, that it's very capable and being very authentic. Um,
And
so that was our last. Sorry,
it's the worst AI we will ever have for the rest of our lives. Keep that in mind too.
it is. It's a scary thought, but it's only going to get better from here. Everything, right? Um, well, I really want to thank you again here for coming on, Chris. Do you have any final thoughts you want to share before we wrap up?
I think it's just that everyone needs to go in and play, find a problem, try and see how AI can help you solve it. This doesn't have to be scary. These things are not judgmental. Just a place to play, feel the boundaries, especially within your own disciplines, and remember that nothing replaces your authentic self.
All right, I love it. Thank you again. Been joined here by Chris Black, operations and marketing leader out of Boulder, Colorado. Does a lot of the things we've been talking about here for her clients. So please don't hesitate to reach out, either if it's for consulting or actually building some of these tools. Thank you for watching. You've been listening to What Keeps Marketers Up at Night, brought to you by Darwin, the team that helps CMOs finally trust their data and sleep a little better. Subscribe, share, and get some rest. You've earned it. Thank you again, Chris, for joining.
Thanks.